Welcome, my name is Nora St. John. I'm the Education Program Director for Balanced Body, and I'm here today to introduce you to one of our most exciting new creations. This is the Allegro 2 tower system that goes with our new Allegro 2. We're very excited to show you the features of the tower and to show how it can be used to increase the versatility of your exercise repertoire, to expand the number of exercises you have available to you. It's also wonderful to have two machines in one small footprint. So you have all the reformer capabilities and virtually all anyway, of the tower or trapeze table capabilities in one unit, decreasing the amount of space that's required in your studio. Also, because you now have a reformer and a tower connected and working together, you can use spring resistance from the reformer side and from the tower side to create some really interesting new integrated reformer tower exercises. Let's get started with just talking about what comes with the unit and then how it all works. So the Allegro 2 tower starts with the tower that will be attached to your reformer. It comes with an assortment of springs, both long and regular, a roll-down bar, and a push-through bar. And it also comes with a safety strap, which we'll get to in just a minute. To convert your reformer into a tower, we also have a conversion mat. So let's show you how that works. Taking these pulleys, which are an extra piece of equipment that you'll need for your tower to work as a reformer, you'll take these off. You can just place them underneath the reformer. And these are very simple. You simply push that spring in and pull it out. There's a small hook in there that attaches onto the eye bolt quite securely. So we'll put that down there. And now I'm going to unspring my reformer and move it all the way to the tower end. From there, I simply take out my conversion mat, and storing it under the reformer is a nice place to keep it. Now notice it has this little tongue on the end. So for that to work, I've got to center it on my frame, and then I'm going to just drop it in like that. Now I have one long, smooth surface on which to do all of my tower exercises. The shoulder rest can be removed or not. It depends on what exercises you're doing. There can actually be a nice place to put the feet for some tower exercises and can support the shoulders for some tower exercises as well. We're going to take them off though to show the full tower as it would be. Now, a couple of things about using the tower. Just like any of the other towers that we have, the springs will be attached by eye bolts. So we have a low eye bolt, which I usually call the 0 or the low eye bolt. That would be position 0. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You also have a center one if you need to attach something from the middle of the machine. And the nice easy thing about this is you can simply say in a class or a group setting, attach your short blue spring to the number 6 eye bolt. It's a really nice easy way to reference the placement of the springs in a class or even in a private setting. You'll also notice that the back side of the machine contains exactly the same configuration of eye bolts, thus allowing you to work off the front of the machine or off the back of the machine. Although the tower is typically done on this side, a lot of the tower work can also be done off the back side of the reformer. And this is a nice way to have two stations in one location without having to do any conversions. Now we have a couple of things to talk about here in terms of safety and function. This is our roll-down bar, which you use for all of your roll-down exercises, usually attached by a long or short yellow spring. And now we come to one of the really critical parts of any tower or trapeze table or Cadillac unit, which is the push-through bar. This is both one of the most exciting parts of the machine and one of the ones you have to be most careful with safety. So I'm going to come around to this side of the machine. The push-through bar right now is held up by a little Velcro attachment to the safety strap. So I'm going to take my push-through bar down. I'm going to swing it through to the front. And we'll talk a little bit about push-through bar safety. The tower that you're going to get comes with a 3-sided push-through bar. In other words, there isn't a 4th side that connects the back of the push-through bar. That allows you a lot of freedom and range of motion to do exercises in this area. It also means that the springs have a little different action. when you don't have the fourth side on your push-through bar. So in terms of safety, we'll show that in a minute, but in terms of safety, this has a lot of force and can swing anywhere in this whole circle. This is called the circle of danger. And you really want to keep both your body parts as an instructor and your client's body parts out of the way of this swing at all times. Really critical thing to do. When you're working with a client using the push-through bar, and let's say you're giving it to them and then they need to hand it off to you, especially in an exercise, for example, where they're prone and the push-through bar is way up behind them, always make sure you get verbal confirmation that they are attached to the bar or that they're going to let it go. Okay, make sure that you're in communication with your client at all times. When working with a new client on this, or even working with an experienced client who you're a little nervous about, always keep your hand somewhere near or on the push-through bar if they're doing anything that's at all risky. Okay, just keeps it safe. Now, a couple of things to look at there. I have two different typical places to put my springs for my push-through bar. One is on the number 6 position on the outside of the upright. Now if I do this, you'll notice what happens when I push the push-through bar through. What happens here is the spring hinges around the pivot point for the push-through bar, and the resistance is going to continue to increase as my push-through bar goes past the uprights. Now most people expect that in a reformer or in any kind of Pilates equipment with spring resistance, because as you go farther in the range of motion, the resistance gets harder and harder. Now, if I want to change that feeling, I'm going to move this out of the way, move up to my number 7 eye bolt. Now when I push that push-through bar down and through, you'll notice that as it passes the uprights, that there's no hinge point here, that it just pushes right through. So the resistance, instead of increasing at that point, right here, suddenly decreases. So if a client is not used to this and you're doing something like spine stretch or prone swan, they can go to that upright, go past it, and then be surprised and let the push-through bar go. So you want to be very aware anytime that this is going to be moving through the uprights that you have your springs attached appropriately. You can use either version. Just know that if you do attach it here, you have to be aware, and the client has to be aware of exactly what's going to happen if they go past the uprights. Now the last piece of safety, two actually last pieces of safety on the push-through bar. One is, notice that I have some wrapping around the bar. The bar all by itself is quite slippery. It's just bare metal and rather hard. So this is a wrap that we use on the foot bars. There's also a cover that can go on the foot bars, both of which will provide a nice grip on this bar. Feet can be very slippery on here, so make sure your clients have a firm grip with their feet if they're doing any exercises like parakeet where they could slide off the bar. The last piece of safety here is when you're bottom springing the push-through bar. A couple of notes. First of all, you always, without exception, want to use the safety strap. There's no reason to do anything else. So we take our safety strap, we hook it around, and then we just take our carabiner through our little strap. Now from here, that means my push-through bar can't ever go lower than I want it to go. So if I have a client underneath here, their knees are bent, they're about this high, this isn't ever going to touch their shins should their feet slide off the bar. You also want to make sure that you put the safety strap on first and then attach your spring. That makes it much easier to put your spring on. Okay, so that would be a nice bottom-loaded position for your push-through bar. I've got some options here with my safety strap. You see all the eyelets that it's got. I could go a little lower, I could go a little higher, depending on the needs of the exercise. Now the last thing about the push-through bar is that there are different positions, different heights of the hinge point of the push-through bar. This is in the low position, which is usually the normal position, but some clients either have less range of motion in their upper back, are very kyphotic or have a very large head, and you need to bring this up so that the bar will clear them on different exercises. For that, you can simply take the push-through bar and move it up one hole just like you do on all of our other towers. Let me show you quickly how to do that. So here's taking my safety strap off, always controlling my push-through bar. And now, if I'm going to change this, all I need to do is there's a little knob, which you can see right here. On this pin, I push in my pin and I pull it out. Then I'm simply going to do that same thing on the other side, bring my push-through bar up to my next hole and push the pin in. If you do change it and your studio has a regular setting that they like to use, we highly recommend returning it to the regular settings so that everybody knows what height that push-through bar is going to be when they come to take a client onto the machine. The last thing I want to talk about, which is something unique to the Allegro 2 system, is right back here. There's several extra eye bolts. And these are really a nice place to store all of your springs when they're not in use. Instead of having to pick them up off the floor or reach them off the wall or grab them out of a basket, they're pretty much all available here. The nice thing about storing them back on these spring storage hooks or spring storage eye bolts is that they don't bang against anything or make any noise when they're being stored. This is very different than if you store them on the uprights where they tend to bong and bang. So I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction to the Allegro 2 tower system. We know that you're going to enjoy this machine for a very long time. Balance Body's endurance and durability are unsurpassed. And if you have any additional questions about the functions, features, safety, or anything else about your equipment, please feel free to call or contact Balance Body. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go on to the workout.